Welcome again, everybody, to another episode of 11 kilometers per second. 11 kilometers per second is the speed at which an object must move in order to escape Earth's gravity and soar into the heavens. And so this channel is intended to tell you how to soar into the heavens and escape the things that hold you back, metaphorically. Okay, so this channel is about mindset. And so what I want to do before I get started, it's about mindset, but it's also about creation. And by creation, I mean what we would do if we were made in God's image and put on this earth to create. And I'll speak a little bit more about that. But first, before I go on, I want to say, please like, share, and subscribe. Help me out. I know that eventually I'll get those of you who are enjoying this to share. And I know that, my folks who are going to come in and listen is going to join, because it's all about consistency and it's about stick-to-itiveness. And this is what I preach here. So I'm going to continue to do that and get the folks who are going to find value in this to like it. And I hope that you are one of them. And I hope that you help me out in this way and like, share, and subscribe, because I intend to put in the work to add value to you, and to do that at least once a week. I've got a lot of things going on, but that is my promise now to you, is to add something at least once a week, and then perhaps do more if time permits. But here's the deal. I have if you guys don't already know, 2025 is with Trump coming in. The firings have gotten started already. First day, he pardons folks who tried to overthrow the government. It's going to be a very interesting year. If we, make it through the entire year, let's see what the heck happens. But I said this in my first 2025 post, that we are, in some very perilous times. And I don't know that we are giving enough attention to this. I don't think people really see it. I don't know. There's very few things that we can do at this moment. But I feel like I am in one of those movies where a person travels from the future and is now talking to folks, and there's sitting in a diner somewhere, and everyone is just happy and oblivious to what's about to go down. That's how I feel like we're taking this right now. It's really about to go down. Things are going to get really messy really quickly. They're already starting to. The impact that this thing is happening, the ripples. If you haven't been hit by it yet, obviously there are a lot of folks who haven't been hit by it yet. But trying to freeze the funding for grants and things of that nature. There are people, in the thousands and potentially even the millions that are already feeling it. I mean, not clearly the folks who, are in H-1B, who were supposed to get visas, or who are supposed to be entering this country. All of those folks are feeling it right now. And if you're not impacted yet, trust me, you're going to be. The tariffs on Mexico and Canada are going to impact you. The home builders are finding it difficult to get the materials needed to build their homes. And so there's already a letter circulating right now from that association. And so a lot is about to go down. And so there's a lot of things that I want to speak to this year. I think this is going to be a year where we need to stay informed and be prepared. And I'm afraid that a lot of us are not. We did not see this coming. A lot of people did, the structural issues with the United States, mainly that we're not making anything. Unemployment is we're really just running on fumes, and essentially forcing the issue with printing money, because we can do that. You're at a point where we are not making enough to actually feed ourselves ultimately. It would be the case where if you lost your job and you don't have the money, and now you're relying on credit cards, eventually, if you can't pay those credit cards, they'll cut you off. The U.S. is not in that position, right? Because they can't, they can continue to print more money. And this is largely what is causing the inflation. If you guys don't know, there is this graph, and I'm gonna try to find it. Hopefully I can put, oh no, that's not gonna happen. Look it up. It's a graph that shows how long. And the reason I'm not gonna do that real quickly is because I'm a little late recording this, and I want to put this out today so that I can live up to the promise. But there's this graph that talks about how long it took for us to print our first $1 trillion. It was like 250 years or something that was insane. And then after that, it started to happen more frequently, and to the point where it's like year after year, we're printing another trillion, and it's alarming. There's a lot of alarming things that are happening, but like there, throughout this year, I'm going to focus on a couple of things and give you a preview of what we're going to talk about. So, like broad topics, we're going to be talking about like crisis proofing your mindset, because we are going to go into a time of crisis, like the Great Depression, like I believe like World War II level type of thing where we have to hunker down. I believe that's about to happen. And so we need to prepare for that. Two things, right? One is how are we going to survive, but also how are we going to thrive? This is not just about living. How are we going to thrive? What are the types of businesses that people got into that you should be looking to get into? What kind of investments that you should be looking to make when things go bad? There's a lot of us especially in the Black community, who have been living the soft life and all that good stuff, and not necessarily in the Black community, like we have like close to, if not zero, wealth. In truth, like we're the biggest consumers, but we have zero wealth. And so like what that means is a couple of things. If you don't have any like savings set up, how are you going to survive when you're no longer making money? But also it means that if you don't have disposable income, like when prices go down, like you can't go bargain shopping for things to invest in. But let's really quickly talk about the kind of things that I am going to speak to. The first is crisis proofing your mindset. So I want to talk about that. So a lot of things that we can talk about here. It's why you can't afford to let fear stop you, how to outwork your own laziness, why you care about what others think, recession-proof confidence, and then crisis proofing your business, how to make money when the economy is crashing, business that survive when everything collapses, pivoting fast, what smart entrepreneurs do in a recession, why scared people buy more, and then leadership in dark times, what narcissistic leaders do before seizing power. Well, we already are starting to see some of that here with our good old Trump. The psychology of dictators, surviving a failing economy, lessons from the past, and the leaders who thrived when their countries fell apart. So these are some of the topics I want to explore. And so the topic of today's discussion is on fear, particularly as the title says, the topic is why fear is keeping you broke. All right. And so we're fearful now just as individuals. This is going to get bigger. But ultimately, if you want to make money, you're going to have to overcome one of the biggest things that hold us back. Right. So there's fear. Particularly, I talk about this again, fear of judgment from others. And then there is, our inclination to laziness, our natural inclination to laziness, or aversion to pain really is what it is, what it boils down to. But it comes off as laziness because, it's painful to do anything that our bodies are not accustomed to. That's just, whatever it is that your body is not accustomed to at the moment, it's seen as work. It's something that it has to learn. Anything that it has to learn, it has to exert more energy than it does at homeostasis, meaning that whatever is the state that it finds itself at equilibrium. So now I have to do a little bit more. So that comes off as pain. Okay, so first start off, why do we fear? Why do we fear? So for those who didn't see the last episode, and I'm assuming, and if you are now new to this channel, I talk about this all the time, but the reason why we fear is it is a tool to keep us in this game called life. I believe that this the life that we're living is a game that we are choosing in some shape or form. Maybe we are just like individual entities, or some people say like we are just like all of us all together. Forget the term that is used, pan something. It's like we're all parts of God, and the way God manifests himself is by, splitting himself into everything that you see so that it can experience the world. And we are the only creatures in that case. We are the only creatures that can not only, at least for now, not only can we create experience, but we can also think through, kind of understand and question the nature of our own existence, and not only question it, but seek out the answer to it, and also explain it to one another as we're trying to figure it out. And this is why, if you're a Christian or Judeo-Christian, it says that God made man in his image. And so this is what I was talking about earlier when I talked about, that we are here to create. So we are here, each of us, to express our own genius. If we can discover and allow ourselves to pursue and perfect it. And what that means is that what we are here to do is to create and to add value to one another. And so we're provided with tools that allow us to come in here and not only experience this life, which I believe is the whole objective of the game that we're living. Well, the reason we play the game, I believe the reason you would play any game is to have fun, but the whole objective of the game is to go in and experience all the wonders, everything, not just, the love, but also the pain. Like every feeling, the ability to have it is wonderful if you don't understand this. But let me not go too deep into this, but because I've talked about this in multiple different other videos here, but the idea here is, we are then given tools that will help us to stay in the game. So like fear is a tool that, for whatever reason, this thing is not made perfect. And by perfect, I mean, not the way that it would be intended to work all of the time. So there are like examples of folks who do not have fear or do not have like the sensation of physical pain. And those people, if you don't have fear, what would happen is, like, if you were one of those sorts of creatures that didn't have fear, you probably like just be reckless and kill yourselves. And if the whole group didn't have that fear, would all kill themselves off. Same thing with folks who, don't have certain sort of things like, psychopaths are said to be folks who just don't have like feelings towards one another. So one of the tools that we have in order to allow us to become social is that we have empathy. This is what allows us to use multiple tools when we are under threat, right? And so one of the tools that we have is fear. Fear allows us to run away and live another day. And so in the empathy and in the desire to be liked by others allows us to cooperate with one another. And so it allows us to love and cooperate with one another. So if you didn't care at all what people thought, then, you'd be a lone wolf ultimately, and you wouldn't, you'd be like all the other psychopaths who go off, and then, we don't have a community and everybody would be off on their own. And so that's also a tool to allow us to cooperate, communicate, build, develop together. And so this is what causes the fear of judgment from others, right? You now fear being judged. But it also causes us to, I don't know. I'm going to say that we are also created with ego, quote unquote, which I say is essentially lack of self-worth. And I think it's partially what allows us. It is a tool, and all of our tools are indiscriminate. And what I mean by that is they're very blunt tools. They are, they're not like tools that like a scalpel. They're like, if you're just taking an axe and trying to chop something to create something, you're just taking an axe as opposed to like a finely cutting things. By that I mean, like, if you're not truly under threat, your fear responses should not come up. But like, we feel threatened by a lot of social situations, a lot of things that are not necessarily going to end our lives, but we feel them because that's the tool that we were given to try to protect us from something that could potentially be a threat. Same thing with, the idea, the tool of caring what people think. Or I'm sorry, the tool of the ego, which I say is a sense of, what's my worth? I think this is precisely why we live in a game of mystery, right? It's like, I'm not going to give you the answer because you then will not go out and seek it. The fact that it's a mystery allows you to go out and seek the answers. And it's the seeking, the constant seeking of discovery and trying to figure out and trying to build that allows us to also be different than other animals. This is why we live in a world where we have so many different technological advances. And, as we are looking at the different things that we want, the things that give us pleasure and running away from the things that give us pain, we start to create these sorts of things that allow for us to do all of this. And this is, how we ended up in a world where everybody's like looking for immediate gratification. Okay. In case, if you're following me so far, fear. The reason we have fear is because it is one of the tools that is given to us to survive, to continue to stay in this game. And this game is intended for us to experience all that is available to us and to go out and pursue and create. Okay. In creation, as you're creating, you also have to survive and eat. So this is why I believe that business and making money and not being broke is very important. By being broke, making money is important because it allows you to experience as much of this world as possible. All the different things that you could want to do, you can go out and do it. It gives you the power to say, here's what I want, and I'm going to help. It gives you the power to also help other people, which is another thing that makes you feel good because that is part of our tools. Okay, so that's fear. Okay. And that's fear and the fear of judgment from others. All right. Now, feeling unworthy, like I said, it benefits you because feeling unworthy benefits you, as I said just earlier, because it's one of the things that allow us to go out and continue to pursue, right? Am I good enough? Am I good enough? Am I good enough? You never know whether or not you're good enough. So this is what also happens, right? A narcissist, most of the people who like are wildly successful were probably narcissists. I don't know. I mean, obviously they weren't diagnosed, but like a narcissist is a person. And this is the case. Like if you've ever seen a comedian, like, and this is something that's widely known, is that comedians oftentimes are like not necessarily like they're giving jokes. They know how to make jokes, but they're not necessarily happy. They're not as happy as they make other people feel. A lot of times it's a void in them. It's their defense mechanism. It's the way that they can feel like they are of value, right? Again, we talked about the lack of self-worth and the value. It's like, I need to continue to make jokes. I need to make you laugh, because if I don't make you laugh, then I'm not a person of value. And so this is the case with narcissists, right? They're like super ultra competitive because there is this lack, there is this void that they're constantly trying to fill that can never be filled. This is what you have with like the likes of Donald Trump. And so you have this idea that, it looks like these guys got it all, right? Like they have the power, they have the success, they have the fame a lot of the times and all the good stuff. And yet they continue to need more. And like the responses, if you look at Trump, like this guy is so thin skinned, like you're literally the most powerful man in the known universe. Like at some point you got to be like, I'm good. Like y'all can talk all you want and it doesn't really matter. But the void, the lack of self-worth, the like, what am I, like, am I really good enough, continues to push people to attain the successes that they get in the various areas where they focus on it, where they think this is exactly what it is that's going to give me the value, the love that I'm seeking for from everybody else. And so there is a value to this lack of self-worth. It pushes us to advance the world and society. Okay. Now, is that the best way to go about finding it? No. because of, because there isn't like the reason why it works so well is because in order to overcome the things that hold you back, like the fear of judgment from others or fear in general, but mainly the fear of judgment from others, and also like our inclination to avoid pain and therefore to be lazy, like you have to have a desire or another pain or another fear that is even stronger than those things. And that's what that void does. It pushes you, like it pushes you towards success because it overcomes that natural fear that we have, the two things that hold us back. And so, again, this is not necessarily the best way to go about it because you end up never being fulfilled. And, everything that you accomplish, you don't actually really appreciate it. You appreciate it, but only for a moment. And so the better way to handle this, and I talked about this again last episode, is to first be aware, right? You have to be aware that this is what's taking place. Be aware of your feelings. Be aware that, monitor your feelings so that, when this is taking place, you can know it. It's natural. And so you don't have to like run away from it. You have to now be aware of it, accept it like you would accept, rain falling down, right? Like, if the rain falls down, you're not going to be like, what the heck is going on? I can't, like, I'm going to fall apart unless you're crazy. What you do is you grab an umbrella, right? Or you stay in, like the game has to be canceled. Whatever was happening outside, like it is what it is. Like most people don't go crazy over something that they can't change, and they recognize that. And that's just how, you have to accept life. This is the difference between those who are fixed-minded. And people talk about this all the time. I hope, you guys are familiar with this. It's like the fixed-minded folks, or the fixed-minded versus learned-minded. Oh, freak. What's the other? Fixed versus okay. I should know this, but look it up. The person who ultimately is more flexible, the person who learns, the person who is not stuck, the person who is not there like stuck and angry about life, is the one who is like, okay, I accept life for what it is. I accept the lemons that life has given me, and now I'm going to go make lemonade. So that's the second part, is making the lemonade. So the first part is accepting, right? I'm here. I have these feelings. I am wherever the heck is happening. I accept what's happening. And then I accept that there is this life that I'm living in right now. I accept whatever position that I happen to occupy at this moment in this game of life that I'm playing. And now, because I want something, I'm going to go and do something about it. And I'm not going to do it because there's a lacking. I accept that I am as valuable as the next person because I happen to be on this earth playing a game. Right? I happen to be on this earth with the ability to experience it. I'm one of the, I think it was kind of like 153. I'm not gonna lie to you what the number is, but you look at the number of people who have existed on this earth. There's an estimate of what that might be, and then compare that to the number of people, the estimate of the number of people who could have existed, and see how privileged you are to just be here, to be able to experience this. And so that's essentially it. Now you enjoy the game like anybody else who was enjoying the game, and now you can go and play the game and try to experience everything. And one of the ways to experience everything is to gain some power, gain some money. And so that means you accept where you are, and then you accept the game, and then you set out to go in and get the things that you want. And you don't do it out of a void, but you do it out of the acceptance. And that means now what you would do, because you accepted this, is to now be disciplined. And that is the difference between being motivated, right? Motivation is like, a lot of people get motivated or they get driven by their hatred or whatever void that they have. And it's like, it burns you at the end once you get out. and multiple people have discussed this, that have made it, have attained the level of success that they were looking for, and then come out the other side feeling like that's it. And so what they've said then, the way that they're describing it is like, what's the next mountain? Like, what's the next mountain that I'm going to climb? But ultimately it boils down to the same thing, which is I now accept that this game is about experiencing things. And so if you can start from the beginning saying that exact thing, it's like I don't have to be driven by anything more than, the understanding and the acceptance that I'm here to play the game. And then saying every day I'm going to wake up and put in the work that they say is necessary. And whether or not you get there, you enjoy the process the entire time of trying to create something on this earth. So that's a better way to go about doing it. So we talked about fear and how it's holding you back. And so what I want to do is talk about, this mental construct that's impeding us and how to overcome it, right? And it stems from fear. It stems from not wanting to be judged, right? But ultimately, it is the way that we have framed this, or the way that we have called this, or the words that we use to describe this phenomenon is called the imposter syndrome. And, this is a word or a terminology that has become like a phenomenon. Everybody is talking about it. Oh, you have the imposter syndrome. And it's a very real syndrome. And at first, not at first. I mean, there was some times when I questioned it, and a lot of folks will say, well, no, you don't have the imposter syndrome. You probably just don't really know what you're doing. And I don't know if, Alex Hormozy is completely on that, on that path where he says it just doesn't exist. You're just not really that good. I don't think he has committed entirely to that. I don't know if he has, but, I feel like that's part of what he's saying. You just have to get good enough. And there's no question you have to get good enough. But I think there is a difference between being good enough and being okay with playing. And this is, to me, the real definition of the imposter syndrome. The imposter syndrome, for me, is when you don't feel like you have the permission to play. Like when you are asking for permission to play, right? Like, can I play in this realm here? And this is, to me, there's a difference, right? There are people who are literally like, they have the skills. They've been, working in the industry for some time. And so they've put in a requisite number of hours. In fact, there are folks who, if you've ever seen this, like, you probably have seen this. Like, there are folks who, because of their mindset, because they believe, like, for a fact, like, you're listening to these people and you're like, wow, this guy just doesn't know as much as I know about this thing. Like, I'm listening, I'm watching their delivery process. Maybe you've actually taken one of their classes or whatever it is that they're offering. You're like, this is not as good. And yet the guy is killing it. And yet you're coming in and you're still doubting yourself and you're still not figuring out exactly how you can do this. This is why we can't just say it's just about the, putting in the repetition. Yes, putting in the repetition absolutely helps you to gain confidence because your mind needs evidence that you are as good as you say, right? But a lot of times it's a chicken and an egg situation. Sometimes you can get the confidence and that gives you your own permission. You have now given yourself the permission to go out and play and then gain the repetition. You're not going to run away because ultimately, like, what happens is, when folks come in, and this is what invariably happens, right? Is you have folks who are going to come in because they know, in sales or whatever it is, like, okay, what you have to do is go in and put in the work and learn it. And what happens is they start putting in the work, expecting for everything to work out, expecting for success right away. And so when invariably it doesn't happen right away because you have to fail multiple times, you're like, I'm doing exactly what that guy is doing. Not understanding there's nuances that in the way that you are delivering, the way that he's delivering, that cannot be spoken. They cannot be taught by It cannot be taught verbally. Like, this is something that has to be, it's an artwork that has to be learned by your body. And moreover, like, there are some things that you would do that's different for you. And this is why, you have to understand that everyone's going to do what they do a little bit differently. This is why you have to understand, like, you can't necessarily compare yourself to other people and what they do. You're going to do what you do a little bit differently than anyone else. And everyone who does it is going to have an audience of folks who wanted their version of this thing. Okay. And so it's okay for you to go hone your own skills, even though somebody else is as good as you. And so, or is as good as you want to be. And so this is why imposter syndrome is when we come in and we are asking for permission to play. I recently learned about this, and I talked about this before too. And I was thinking about, why, sometimes you feel like you're better than another person, right? And going through that exercise, like, there was something that led me to being like, okay, well, yeah, what is the reason why why I feel better than somebody, right? Like, and ultimately what I had to come to the conclusion of was like, you're literally feeling like you're better than somebody because you play you're playing a role better than a role that is deemed to be a role to play better than that other person is playing. Right? Or a role, or that other person is not playing a role that they think they should be playing as good as you think they should be playing. Or whatever it is just a role that is being played. And this is why you think it. Like 9 times out of 10, and probably 10 times out of 10, no one is saying I'm better than you because, I do everything better. Now, let me pick up. Yes, you will in fact go and look for evidence, right? You'll say, hey, I'm better because I scored higher in the math score. Better because I made money. Like Scott Storch is a producer. His wife was caught in LA, saying some, like, just being complete, like a complete asshole to a parking attendant. And she was like, I'm rich and you're poor. That's the thing. And she's like, well, and the guy responded, well, you have a poor soul. And, like, you're going to look for evidence that kind of helps you satisfy your own lack of self-worth. This thing is happening to me. I must not be worth it. I must not be worthy. Like, if I was this, nobody would be speaking to me this way. And so now you're going to look for evidence as to why it is that you feel better. But ultimately, what we're saying is that this role that you're playing, and yes, it is a role. Like, and the reason why we know this is because sometimes you don't feel like you're playing the role that you are most comfortable playing, the one that you feel is yourself. Depending on who you're around, a lot of times you'll not feel like you're playing that role well. That exact role, somebody who knows a little bit more than you, you'll get intimidated. You'll get threatened. That's why you get threatened, right? And so if this is who you are, then why do you get threatened? It's because you might feel like, that role, that person that I say I am, I'm not necessarily that as good as that person. This is how you would know that this is a role that you're playing. And so ultimately what we're saying is you have decided to play this role, and because you're playing it well or better than someone else, or you're playing it whatever, I don't know exactly what it is, but I hope you get what I'm saying. That makes you better than the next person. And ultimately, again, we are here to experience this thing. Everyone gets the same opportunity to love and appreciate. And I can tell you that love and appreciation, other than sex, is the one true thing, or not other than sex, because sex also should come out of love and appreciation, but I guess it doesn't necessarily have to, right? I suppose you would have to have some level of appreciation for somebody to enjoy it. Because if you have none whatsoever, you probably won't enjoy it. But what I mean is, what I'm trying to say is, it's the thing that gives you the dopamine hit, the good feelings that we go out and seek from substances, or from eating, from sugar, like that is what gives it to you, right? It's love. And so we all have the ability to do that. But even then, I would say, like, some people, they cut themselves because they want to feel. And so we want to feel all the feels. We seek thrills. We seek to be scared. We often feel that. We want to feel all the feels. We're here for the ability to feel. All of that is accessible to all of us. And that's what I'm saying. So no, that, the role that you happen to be playing does not make you better. But it just led me to the understanding of that ultimately, or not the understanding, because we talk about this all the time, but it allowed me to get a deeper understanding for it. A kind that is not just one with words. And I'm hoping that the words that I'm using are resonating with you too. But like, it's not just one with words where we understand, all we're doing is, we're all playing a role and all that good stuff. But it's kind of like, okay, yeah, that is what's happening. I'm just playing this role. And if you get that, right? Like, if you get that, the only reason why you feel better than somebody is because of a role you decided you're going to play for whatever reason. Somebody said you were good at something. Maybe you had a natural inclination towards math. Yes, you things occurred to you a lot better, and somebody noticed it, and so they said you're this, and now you kept going in that direction. Or somebody said you were cute based on whatever standard it was when you were a kid, and they treated you in a certain way, and you kept, like you said, this is it. This is the role. Here's the person I am based on all the archetypes that are there in this play that we have of life. And so you decided to go in and learn that character and continuously seek out all of the things that character would do and learn and attempt to perfect it. And I say attempt because you're constantly learning to perfect it. The new vernacular, the new slang comes out, the new whatever, you're going to learn that too. You're going to learn whatever is coming out. You're going to wear the clothes and the fashion that person wears as it shifts. You're going to continue to try to be that person unless you decide this is not who you want to play, who the character you want to play anymore. And so I say that to say, no one necessarily had to give you permission to do that. Like, it landed on you. And so you feel like you need permission from other people to play the role that you say you want to be, and you don't. Like, if you think about a lot of times when you're approaching, your customer or your prospect, your potential customer, or you're approaching, they may not necessarily be your prospect. Like, maybe you're networking with folks who may be referrals for your prospect, or maybe if you're not a business owner, you're your boss. Just to give you this sense of, most of us who are business owners have worked in our past. And so, like, the place that you're in where you don't necessarily feel like you fit in, there is, if you think about it, a lot of times we're coming in and asking them for permission to play. Like, can you, we're walking around scared to be discovered. And a lot of times, more than anything, it's not just the imposter syndrome that, like, we're not just running around like, oh my God, I don't want to talk. But we're also coming out like, no, not only am I discovered, like, okay, the gig is up. Let me throw my hands up and, throw myself at your mercy, so you can like not treat me poorly. And in fact, maybe you can help me. Like, I'm not necessarily this person, but could you give me your business? Or I'm not necessarily this person, but can you allow me to play in this role, or, allow me to continue to be here? Again, this is out of fear, but you don't have to ask for permission anymore. You can then say, I'm here to play. Again, let's go back. Permission to play. You don't need. This is different than being good. Again, there are folks who probably, in some cases, are not as good as you, and they're not asking for permission to play. They're not as good. They're just going and saying, I believe I'm here to play. And others are responding saying, I believe you're here to play too. And so therefore they're making their money. And so that is like a narcissist is just, is always in competition. And although they may not necessarily think themselves worthy, they're going to talk like it. And whether or not they suck, like a freaking con artist is somebody who doesn't necessarily have that, but then they're going to talk like it because they're not asking for permission to play. And so same thing with you. You have to say to yourself, I'm not asking you for permission. When I'm making my sales call, when I'm going to have the conversation, whether or not you see me as good is fine by me, because I'm here to go and play this role. So I'm not going to go and feel any less like I'm not here I'm not worthy of being in this field. I'm here to go play this role. And so if you don't see it as good, then that's fine. I'm continuing, just like the role that I am comfortable in right now. I'm continuing to grow and learn. I'm going to continue to grow and learn in this role as well. But here's the thing too, like I said, you have to have that mindset in order to go in and put in the reps that will allow you to refine and to get as good in this role that you are playing, that you have decided to play. Continue to be better at it, in this role that you decide to play. Not the role that you already feel comfortable that you decide to play, but the next role that you're taking on that you've decided to play. And now you're going to start to perfect that character as well. And so, the repetitions that you have to take, trust me, everything is a numbers game. It's a numbers game. Let me explain to you how. Like, again, two ways I'm going to explain this. Like, you know how many luxury brand retail shops get people to come in and go window shopping and then come out and not buy anything? Like, probably 9 out of 10 people that come in there are not buying anything. Do you think that means that these retail folk think that they're not good enough at that point? Like, we're looking at the numbers all wrong. Like, the folks that you are approaching, if they don't say yes to your business, that's because they're not the folks who are going to say yes to your business. There are folks who will. All right. The person that you're playing right now, you probably don't even understand, because you're not even thinking about how many times people have doubted that you are who you say you are, or more than anything, that doubted that you are who you believe yourself to be. You know why? Because you're calling it hate. Oh, these guys are hating on me, or this guy is rude, or this guy's an asshole, whatever the case may be. You're not seeing that, and what's happening ultimately is they're probably saying, this guy, she's pretending to be this person, she's not that. And it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter whether or not they think you can play this role. You don't need their permission. It's you that needs to give yourself the permission to play the role and to become great at it. And so that's the thing. This is what you're going to do. If you don't want to be broke, give yourself permission to play. You don't need it from anybody else. Go out and put in the reps. Figure out how to put in the reps every day. If you're thinking, because this is another thing that holds people back. It's like, what do I do now? What do I do now? What to be done is known. Trust me. Go put in the reps. Like, you're going to figure out how to, learn the nuances of this game by putting in the reps and going and seeing and being like, okay, that didn't work that way. How can I try it a little bit differently? Or maybe it worked perfectly. Like, and this was not your guy. You'll know from doing the reps. And so that's the fear of you being judged is what's giving you the imposter syndrome. What we're calling the imposter syndrome. The solution is to accept that you have to play this game, decide to play the game, and don't ask anyone for permission to play this game in the character. I hope that was helpful for you. Again, like, share, and subscribe. And let's come back again next week and let's do it again. All right. See you at the top.